September of 2021. In the south of Russia, at the foot of Elbrus, a group of tourists sets out on the trail, a regular commercial ascent, the kind hundreds of groups make each season. But within a few hours, this climb will turn into one of the most tragic events in the history of Russian mountaineering. 5 people will lose their lives. The rest will find themselves fighting to stay alive in a storm where the wind reaches hurricane force and the visibility shrinks to less than the length of an outstretched arm. Back then, the whole country was talking about it. Headlines were filled with words like disaster, guide's mistake, irresponsibility. Some blamed the instructors, others blamed the tourists. Some pointed at the rescuers, others at the tour companies. But almost no one asked the most important question. Why did this happen at all? The tragedy on Elbrus was not an accident. It was the result of a chain of decisions made under fatigue, pressure, limited time, and the illusion of control. Each step seemed reasonable, each choice looked justified, but together they formed a fatal path. This story is not about sensationalism, and it is not about finding someone to blame. It is about people, about a system, and about the mountains which never forgive haste. About how commercial tourism turned the highest peak of Europe into a route for everyone, where sometimes a human life costs less than a good online review. Elbrus is not cruel, and it is not kind. It is simply honest. And in September of 2021, it reminded everyone of that honesty at a price far too high. So let's start from the beginning. Spring of 2020. The world shuts down. Borders close, flights stop, and the travel industry collapses in a matter of weeks. Mountain guides, who live season to season, lose their income overnight. Some try offering online consultations, some take courier jobs, but most simply wait and hope. Summer of 2020 slips by. Then autumn. 2 full seasons burn out completely. People who dedicated their lives to the mountains sit in apartments, watching their savings melt away. Loans don't pause, rent doesn't disappear, families still need to eat, and there is no money, none at all. By the start of 2021, the travel industry is barely breathing. Companies close one after another. Those who remain afloat take on debt, borrow from friends, convince themselves that everything will return soon. But will it? Then, in the spring of 2021, something shifts. Lockdowns start lifting. People can finally leave their cities. And suddenly, the market explodes back to life. The demand for mountain trips skyrockets. Phone lines at tour companies stay busy from morning to night. Websites crash under the load of requests. Spots are booked months ahead. Who are these people? Ordinary office workers, managers, programmers, designers. People who spent almost 2 years locked inside, working remotely, pacing the same rooms. People who were used to vacations in Turkey, Dubai, Bali, or Thailand. But now borders are still half closed, visas are a headache, and the soul wants something real, some taste of life again. And for many, the mountains become the answer. Elbrus is close, familiar, inside the country, not abroad. No visas, no passports, no long flights across continents. You just buy a tour, get on a train or a plane, and a few days later, you're in the Caucasus. Another week, and you're standing at nearly 5,000 meters, staring out over endless snow, taking photos, feeling like a hero. Adrenaline, euphoria, the sharp shock of realizing you are alive, that you can do things, that you overcame something. Elbrus becomes the hit of the season, the highest peak in Europe. The words alone sound grand, and at the same time, it feels reachable. You don't need to be a climber. You don't need serious training. The tour companies promise anyone can do it. 90% of our clients reach the summit. Come, pay, and you too will conquer Elbrus. People believe it. They buy the tours, they go, in crowds. The trail gets so packed that you sometimes have to wait in line just to keep moving. Elbrus turns into a tourist conveyor belt. And the guides? The guides are finally working again. Money is coming in. Debts are slowly getting paid off. The season is at full speed. Imagine this. You're leading a group up Elbrus. You come down, 2 days of rest, and then back up, then again and again. Every week, new faces, new names, new people you have to teach the same things to. How to breathe at altitude, how to place their feet, how not to panic when altitude sickness kicks in. Summer of 2021. The guides have been pushing themselves for more than 3 months with almost no days off. Some do 3 ascents a month, some do 5. Experienced instructors who used to take one group and then rest a week now go back to the mountain over and over because saying no means losing income, and the money is needed, urgently. The debts from those 2 silent seasons haven't gone anywhere. Loans are still there. Families still need support. So you face a choice. Take one more group or finally take a break. Most choose the group because the fear of being jobless again sits deep. Because it feels like now you have to squeeze everything out of the moment while demand is high. Rest can wait, later. But later never comes. The exhaustion builds, not the kind where your legs just hurt, a different kind. When you wake up and realize you don't want to see these mountains, you don't want to answer tourist questions, you don't want to smile and pretend you're excited. You just want it all to stop. The mountains that once felt like a dream turn into an office, a routine, a conveyor belt job. You stop feeling awe at the summit. You stop noticing the sunrise at altitude. You just move people up and down, like a bus route on schedule. The climb becomes mechanical. The decisions become automatic. This is where the danger begins. When you're exhausted, your mind starts looking for shortcuts, small compromises, skipping steps, taking chances, because you've done this 100 times and nothing happened. So, the 101st time should be fine too. The weather forecast isn't perfect, we'll move fast. The group didn't acclimatize well, adrenaline will carry them. Someone says they don't feel well. They'll push through it, the summit is close. This isn't malice, it's not outright irresponsibility, it's burnout. When your ability to read risk gets dull, when the warning signs blur into background noise because you hear them every day and you've learned to tune them out. When you're so drained that your decisions come not from judgment, but from momentum. No guide woke up that morning thinking, "Today I will lead people to their deaths." Of course not. They just kept doing what they had done dozens of times before, leading groups, earning money, not noticing that something inside had quietly broken. And that burnout, invisible, unrecorded, not mentioned in any official report, became the backdrop for everything that would follow. A small crack that grew and grew until everything split apart. EBS Guide, an officially registered company, all paperwork and insurance in place, licenses current. On paper, a full-fledged tour operator. In reality, it was one person running a business under a brand that looked like a major company. A website, a logo, glowing reviews, everything designed to inspire trust. Clients were happy, the business worked. September of 2021. 2 groups set out for Elbrus, 16 people, 4 guides. The standard commercial setup. 1 instructor for every 4 or 5 participants, within legal norms. In practice, right at the edge, but still technically acceptable. Who were these 16? Ordinary people. An engineer from Moscow, a manager from St. Petersburg, a designer from Yekaterinburg, a doctor, a teacher, a programmer, ages ranging from about 25 to about 45. Their physical fitness varied. Some ran regularly, others hadn't exercised since school, and almost none of them had any real mountain experience. They arrive with backpacks, brand new gear straight from the store, and a huge desire to reach the summit. Their eyes are full of excitement. Some already have captions prepared for social media, to show friends how they're out here doing something epic, while everyone else is still sitting on their couch. The group leaders are Anton Nikiforov and Ilya Chuikov, not rookies, not kids who took a 2-week guiding course and decided to make some extra cash. These are experienced instructors. Nikiforov has climbed Elbrus dozens of times. Chuikov has climbed it even more, from both the southern and northern sides, and has been on Kazbek as well. They know this mountain intimately, every rock, every crack, every dangerous slope. On paper, their qualifications were enough. Both held the 3rd-class alpine sport rank, a foundational level that officially allows guiding on routes of moderate difficulty. Not elite athletes, not masters of the sport, but recognized professionals. They had instructor certifications, experience working with commercial groups, recommendations, a solid reputation. At that moment, that was more than sufficient to legally guide people on Elbrus. If someone had checked their documents before the climb, nothing would have raised concern. Everything looked correct. They were professionals. But here's the nuance. Qualification is not just paperwork and the number of ascents. It is also the state you are in right now, the ability to make the right decision in real time, the readiness to say no, even when it costs you money, and that internal instinct, the one that whispers or sometimes screams, "Something is wrong." Tour companies love to frame mountain trips in a certain way. Open any of their websites, you'll see bright photos, smiling faces against snowy peaks. And when it comes to Elbrus, the headlines usually say things like, "Elbrus is within everyone's reach. Reach the highest point of Europe in 7 days. No mountaineering experience required. No special training needed." And the thing is, this works, because Elbrus is not technically difficult. There are no sheer cliffs, no ice walls where you have to climb with axes. Just a long, steady ascent up a snow slope, step after step, hour after hour, and eventually you will stand on the summit. Marketers understand this perfectly, and they start selling Elbrus as an attraction, a challenge for office workers. Want to feel like a hero without taking real risks? Here is the package. 7 days, a few $1,000s, and you become the conqueror of a 5,000-meter peak. The photo for social media is included. 90% of our clients reach the summit, the companies say. And that is true. Most do. Because in good weather, with proper acclimatization and a thoughtful plan, Elbrus is accessible to amateurs. But that statistic creates a dangerous illusion. The illusion that the mountain is safe, that it's just a long walk, that nothing bad can happen. The mountain becomes a product, a service, another box on a life checklist. Go to the gym, buy a car, fly to Bali, climb Elbrus, check, next. And people start treating the ascent like an ordinary trip. But the mountains don't work that way. They are not a hotel and not a gym. You don't get a refund if something goes wrong. There is no service here, only the elements. Your life depends not on a contract and not on what the advertisement promised, but on 100 things you cannot control. The weather, the altitude, your body, your mind. But most tourists never hear this part. They are shown only the bright side, summit photos, happy faces, sunlit smiles. Those who turn back halfway because of altitude sickness or fear are simply not photographed, and that is done on purpose, to avoid scaring off new clients, to keep the money flowing. The participants of the September group were typical clients of this market. Office workers with average fitness but no mountain experience. Maybe they ran a couple of half marathons. They go to the gym, and they sincerely believe that this is enough. The group arrives in Mineralny Vodi. They transfer to Terskol, a village at the foot of Elbrus. The altitude is about 2,000 meters. Everything still feels fine. People are cheerful, full of energy. They take pictures with the mountains. They laugh. They discuss the route. Ahead are 7 days. 7 days is the standard short program for Elbrus. Technically acceptable, but in reality, barely enough. Professional climbers recommend at least 10 days, ideally closer to 2 weeks, because your body needs time to adjust to altitude, to adapt, to change how it breathes, to learn how to function when there isn't enough oxygen. But 10 or 14 days cost more nights of accommodation, more meals, more work for the guides. And clients want faster and cheaper. Their vacation time is limited. Work is waiting. A 7-day tour becomes the sweet spot, fits into a work break, costs a manageable amount, and on paper, everything is still within the rules. The first acclimatization hike. The group goes to the Maiden's Braids waterfall. The altitude is around 3,000 meters, a simple route, a couple of hours of walking. The goal is to see how the body reacts to altitude, to test the gear, to feel the pace, and here the first warning signs appear. A few people complain of headaches. Someone feels nauseous. One woman says she is dizzy. The guides nod. This is normal, part of acclimatization. The second hike. The observatory at about 4,000 meters. They take the cable car part of the way, then continue on foot. This time, it is serious. The air is thinner, breathing is harder. Every step requires effort, and again, complaints. Headaches intensify. The nausea doesn't go away. One guy has to stop completely. Another sits down on a rock and says he can't breathe. This is not normal. These are signs the body is not keeping up. That acclimatization is going poorly. That the system is failing to adapt to altitude. Ideally, the group should rest another day or two, take an additional hike, evaluate each participant carefully, and those who are struggling should be taken off the ascent. But that doesn't happen, because adding an extra day means changing the plan. It means negotiations with clients. It means the risk of complaints. We paid for 7 days, and now you want us to stay longer? We have return flights. It means the risk that people will refuse, demand refunds, leave bad reviews. And the guides decide, we stick to the plan. Yes, a few people don't feel great, but most seem okay. And those who complain are just weaker than the rest. They'll push through. We'll start at night, move fast. Adrenaline will carry them. The main thing is to keep going. The participants stay silent too, because admitting weakness feels shameful. Saying, "I'm not ready," means letting the group down. It feels like failure, and they came here to prove something to themselves, to win. To later say to friends, "I climbed Elbrus, I made it, I did it." One of the participants later told investigators, "I knew I felt bad, but I thought everyone felt the same, that it was normal, that you just had to endure. If the guides weren't canceling the ascent, then everything must be fine. So the problem was me, not the situation." Acclimatization has failed, but the ascent is scheduled, and everyone pretends everything is under control. Let's pause for a moment and talk about acclimatization. What actually happens to the body at altitude? Because without this, the rest of the story doesn't make sense. The summit of Elbrus is over 5,500 meters above sea level. At that altitude, the air pressure is almost half of what it is at sea level. Sounds abstract? Imagine breathing through a thin straw. There is air, but not enough. Every breath becomes work. The lungs strain, trying to pull in something that just isn't there. The heart starts pounding harder, trying to push blood faster. But it doesn't solve the problem. There is still not enough oxygen. And this is where the important part begins. The brain is the hungriest organ in the body. It consumes about a fifth of all the oxygen you take in. When oxygen becomes scarce, the brain is the first to starve. The first symptom is a headache, then nausea, then weakness, the kind where your legs give out and your hands stop obeying you. Breathing becomes difficult. It feels like your chest is being squeezed in a vice. This is the early stage of altitude sickness, unpleasant but not critical. If you go down in time, it will pass. The body recovers. But if you keep going upward and ignore the signals, the next stage begins. Fluid starts filling the lungs. Breathing turns wet and bubbling. A person begins to cough. Every breath becomes torture. Then the brain begins to swell. This is even worse. Coordination breaks down. A person starts walking like someone who is drunk. Speech becomes confused. They lose their sense of place. They may sit down in the snow and start undressing because they feel hot. Or they may see things that are not there, people, animals, lights. Without help, this becomes deadly. And quickly. From the first symptoms to death can be only a matter of hours. The only rescue is immediate descent. Every few hundred feet down is a chance. The lower you go, the more oxygen. And the more oxygen, the better the chance to survive. Most tourists don't know any of this. They've heard of altitude sickness in passing. They think it's just mild discomfort, a headache. Who hasn't had one? Drink some water and it'll go away. They don't understand that their body is sending an SOS. That every new symptom isn't just unpleasant, it's a real threat to life. That they need to stop, turn around, go down, immediately. And the worst part is that even when someone tells them this, many don't believe it. Because one thought keeps repeating in their head, "I've already come this far. The summit is so close. I just need to push a little more. I can handle it." No, you can't. The mountain does not forgive stubbornness. It doesn't give second chances. Either you listen to your body and turn back, or they bring you down on a stretcher, or in a bag. And in that September group, there were people already feeling these symptoms. Headache, nausea, weakness, clear signs the body was not coping. But they stayed silent, endured, kept going, because no one had told them that enduring at altitude is forbidden. Let's return to the ascent itself. All the context is now clear. If this part felt long, good. Now you understand what was at stake. It is September of 2021. The season is almost over. Elbrus is no longer welcoming like in summer. Days are shorter, nights colder. The weather shifts unpredictably. Clear skies can turn into a whiteout in less than an hour, but the tour schedule is set, and the summit day is only a few days away. The forecast for the 23rd of September is alarming. Winds strong enough to knock a grown person off their feet. Temperatures around 20 below on the saddle. Gusts reaching hurricane force. Local guides look at the reports and shake their heads. A bad day. Some companies cancel the ascent. Others postpone. Some send their clients back down, saying openly, "The mountain is closed today." But the EBS guide group has no extra time. A 7-day tour is like a ticket with a fixed return date. Miss the window and everything collapses. The tourists fly home. The schedule for the next group shifts. And there is no money to issue refunds. Anton Nikiforov and Ilya Chuikov sit in a small shelter at the Azov Glade, checking weather reports from different sources. One site promises a short improvement by morning. Another predicts snow and fog through the day. There is a possible window, but it is thin. Only a couple of hours early in the morning. A decision has to be made now. Nikiforov says, we can push through. The key is to leave early. If we start around 2 in the morning, we reach the saddle by sunrise, and the summit by mid-morning. Chuikov agrees. They have walked this route dozens of times and know that even with strong wind, it can still be possible. The mountain has frightened them before, and then let them through again. The decision is made. They will go at night. If we make it in time, we'll be back before midday, they say. Later, a guide from another company will say, we saw the forecast. I don't understand how they decided to go. And someone else will quietly add, but maybe I would have taken the risk too. It's autumn. The season is ending. The group is waiting. Everyone is already here. They prepare. They check radios, thermoses, headlamps. The tourists listen to instructions. Some joke. Some are anxious. No one knows that a storm is already forming near the summit. A storm that will not return them by midday, but will drag them into chaos, and not everyone will come back from it. Nearly midnight. The wind outside grows stronger, but inside, everything is quiet. Tomorrow is summit day. 2 in the morning. Darkness as dense as cloth. Only narrow beams of headlamps cut faint cones of light through the snow. The wind moans around the shelter. People wake not from rest, but from unease. Their sleep was short and broken. Some never slept at all, just lay there listening to the wind slam the door. Outside, the cold bites, 20 below. The air is dry and sharp, almost brittle. Every inhale scratches the throat. The tourists move out slowly, their faces hidden behind balaclavas, eyes reflecting the headlamp glow. They all look the same, equally tired, equally determined. Snowcats are already waiting. These tracked machines carry groups up to about 5,000 meters. From there, it's only the last stretch on foot, roughly 600 meters of ascent, about 5 hours of climbing. The plan is simple. Leave at 2 in the morning, reach the summit by mid-morning, be back down around noon. That's how it's usually done. But today things start going wrong immediately. While boarding the snowcats, one person complains of dizziness. Another can't fasten their boots. Their fingers won't respond. A third forgets a trekking pole and has to go back, slowing everyone down. Small things. But small things shape the rhythm of the climb. When the machines stop and the group steps out, the wind has already grown stronger. Cold bites at 20 below, with sharp gusts. Snow squeaks under boots. Breaths turn into crystals on their masks. The guides check radios, group the climbers by pace. From here on, it's just steps, one after another, upward, slow, heavy. Someone loses their breathing rhythm 10 minutes in. Someone asks for a break, but you cannot stop. The body cools instantly. So, the group keeps moving in near silence. By 3 in the morning, the pace drops. They move one by one, stretched out along the slope. The guides call out encouragement. Just a little more, it gets easier. But it doesn't. The altitude, the cold, and the fatigue are taking their toll. When the first pale glow of sunrise appears on the horizon, they should already be approaching the summit. But they are far from it. They have barely reached the saddle, around 5,300 meters. They are behind by several hours. The sun rises, but doesn't warm anything. The wind grows stronger, flinging snow into their faces. People stop to catch their breath. Someone can't open their thermos because the zipper is frozen. Someone's mask has iced over, and breathing has become torture. Someone asks, should we turn back? But the words vanish into the wind. No one wants to be the one to say enough. Everyone looks upward. The summit is visible, close enough to feel reachable. The guides exchange glances. Exhaustion shows even through their goggles. They know the clock is running out. The later the descent, the higher the risk of being caught in the storm. But there is still a chance, if they keep moving. This morning was supposed to be triumphant. Instead, it marks the beginning of the countdown. Anna Makarova walks in the middle of the line. During a break, she sits directly in the snow, takes off a glove, and stares at her hand as if she doesn't recognize it. She says quietly, I can't breathe. Her face is gray, her lips are blue. Guide Igor Danko sees it immediately. This is not fatigue. This is pulmonary edema. He speaks to her softly, as if to a frightened child. "We're going down now, Anna. Slowly. You're okay." The others stand nearby, waiting. Snow clogs their masks, goggles fog over. Visibility is less than the length of an arm. The guides try to speak over the radio, but the signal keeps breaking. Danko takes Anna by the arm and begins the descent. Neither of them will reach the summit. Each step downward is a struggle. She stumbles, loses balance. Her breathing is rapid, wet, bubbling. These are the signs of fluid in the lungs. He tries to move faster, but the trail is buried. The wind knocks them off their feet. Anna says she feels hot and begins unzipping her jacket. Danko grabs her hands. "Don't! Do you hear me? Don't!" He pulls the zipper back up. She nods, but her eyes have already gone distant. Then she sinks into the snow. Meanwhile, the group moves on, disappearing into the white. Danko drags Anna downward, 1 meter at a time. She asks to stop. Then she stops speaking. He tries to get her to stand, to move her hands, but she no longer responds. Her pulse is barely there. A few minutes later, nothing. Only wind and snow. Anna is gone. He calls into the radio, but hears only static. He tries shouting for the others, but his voice breaks in the storm. He decides to stay. He covers her body with a storm cape, sits beside her. He knows that moving alone in these conditions is death, but leaving her feels impossible. So they remain on the slope, one who lived and one he could not save. And above them the wind roars, erasing their tracks as if nothing happened. Meanwhile, the rest of the group, unaware of Anna and the first death, continues upward. The blizzard erases every reference point. The world turns white. Even shadows vanish. No one can tell whether they are climbing or descending. The ground is slick. The wind knocks them down. They fall, stand, fall again. Voices fade. Someone calls out a name, but there is no answer. Panic spreads. Someone sits down in the snow to rest, but within a minute, the body begins to freeze. The guides try to gather the group, but they see only faint flashes of light in the white haze. One headlamp, then another, and nothing else. Between them is a solid wall of wind. People cling to ropes, to sleeves, to any hand they can reach. But the wind is stronger. Panic mixes with despair. Strength drains away. And at that moment, the guides understand. It's over. They cannot keep going up. At last, they decide to descend, the only chance to make it home. But taking a step downward in a storm like this feels like stepping off the edge of the world. The climbers hold to the fixed rope along the route. They move almost by touch, gripping the line with frozen fingers. The wind knocks them sideways. Snow packs into their boots. Their feet go numb. Then comes a steep section. Ice hidden under snow. The front rope team slips. The rope jerks, and the whole chain goes down. Several people tumble together. Someone manages to arrest themselves with an ice axe. Someone else does not. But by sheer luck, everyone survives. Denis Venerksy screams in pain. His leg is injured. He cannot stand, cannot move. Guide Ilya Chuikov crawls to him, checks. A break. That's it. He can't walk. The wind howls, snow blinds. In conditions like this, every delay is a death sentence. The group gathers around, unsure what to do. Words vanish in the storm. People grab ropes, packs, each other's shoulders. Some try to help Venerksy, some simply stare, drained, empty, frozen from the inside. Chuikov understands. They need help now. They have lost too much time. They will not make it down on their own. And if they stay, everyone will die. He makes a decision. He takes one participant who can still stand, Dmitry Dolgov. He tries to call on the radio. Silence, no signal. He gives a short nod to the others. "We're going for help. Stay together. Do not sit down in the snow. Do you hear me? Do not sit down." And they go. 2 figures in a white wall, a guide and a climber, walking almost blindly into the storm. Snow to their knees, breath tearing from their lungs. Within a minute, their silhouettes disappear in the blur, as if they never existed at all. The others remain alone. No guide, no direction. The rope teams split. No one hears commands anymore. GPS can't find signal. Phones have frozen into solid blocks of plastic. Some walk forward, some turn sideways. Some sit down in the snow and never stand up again. The mountain becomes chaos. Dozens of scattered figures on the slope. each one lost in their own white darkness, each one completely alone. No one is fighting for the summit anymore. Everyone is fighting for one thing only, to stay awake. Because sleep here means the worst. And above it all is the wind. It smothers screams. It steals breath. It tears at clothing. It takes the heat from the body. And in this white silence, no one knows where the path ends, or whether it ends at all. Visibility is gone. People no longer see one another. They only sense that someone is nearby. A faint breath, a short word that the wind immediately tears away. Elena Nesterova is one of the few still trying to move. Her steps are uneven. Her body sways. She has lost control. The guide pulls her by the safety tether, but she suddenly stops. She steps to the side and leans onto the fixed rope, the steel cable that runs along the route. Her hands slip. She hangs there, exhausted, then slowly sinks into the snow. The guide lunges toward her, tries to lift her. It doesn't work. Elena doesn't respond. Her face is pale, her eyes half closed. He calls for help, but no one nearby moves. The others are sitting close together, huddled to keep any warmth. They have no strength to even turn their heads. Some no longer understand where they are. Some are in the early stages of brain swelling. People mumble nonsense. They see things that are not there. And here is the strange detail. One member of the group had worked for 10 years as an emergency doctor, Dmitry Dolgov. But no one knew. He never mentioned it. And now, with people dying around him, he does not try to help. He gives no advice. He only tries to survive. Only after the descent will anyone learn that he was a doctor. And for many, the reaction will be shock. How could a trained professional remain silent? But at 5,000 meters, logic breaks. No one has the right to judge in that moment. The body is collapsing. The brain is starving. Even a doctor with a decade of experience becomes what everyone becomes, a person trying to stay alive. Meanwhile, hallucinations spread through the group. Someone says they see a light below. Someone is sure they hear rescuers calling. One man takes off his gloves and begins digging in the snow, convinced there is a shelter hidden beneath it. A guide crawls to him, shouting, "Stop! Put your gloves back on!" But the man no longer hears. He keeps digging with bare hands. Some guides are still trying to act. One rubs the face of a climber whose skin has turned blue. Another removes his own jacket and tries to wrap it around a woman. His mittens fall into the snow. He doesn't pick them up. His hands turn white instantly. But they continue, automatically, on instinct. Because this is what it means to be a guide. Because stopping is not an option. Every minute stretches into an eternity. People no longer feel their bodies, only a dull, sharp pain of cold. Some fall silent. They simply close their eyes and stop moving. One guide, still conscious, tries to reach Chwikov over the radio. Still nothing. He stays kneeling beside Elena, shakes her shoulder, then lowers his hands. The wind spreads a thin layer of frost across the slope, covering everything, slowly, unstoppably. On this mountainside, time has stopped. Everything is still. People, snow, breath, the world itself. Down below, in base camp, it's just an ordinary evening. People drink tea, talk, get ready for sleep. No one knows that a disaster is unfolding above them. The first distress signal breaks through in fragments. Chwikov's satellite phone catches connection for only a few seconds. He manages to shout, "The group is on the saddle. People are collapsing. We need help." And the line cuts out. Then silence. They try radio contact. Nothing. Another attempt. Still nothing. The radios freeze in the cold, batteries die, antennas crust over with ice. One device after another fails. Ksenia Kotlyar, the guide who met Nikiforov's and Chwikov's groups on the route that morning, had managed to descend safely with her only client before the storm hit. Now she sits below, watching the time. Noon, 1, 2, 3, no group. According to the plan, they should have been back by midday. At the latest, early afternoon. It is now late afternoon, no signal. No updates. Ksenia sounds the alarm. She calls the coordinators. She calls the rescue service. She explains, there are 16 people and 4 guides up there. They are not responding. The weather is extreme. They need help, urgently. The rescue team mobilizes. But there is a problem. The storm is not just on the summit. It is covering the entire slope. Visibility is 0. Going out in such conditions means risking the rescuers' lives. They try anyway. They prepare snowcats, the machines built to climb steep snowy slopes. Engines start. The vehicles begin to move uphill, but within the first few hundred meters, it becomes clear. They cannot continue. Snow is blowing horizontally. The tracks are slipping. The machines are stuck almost immediately. One snowcat tries to climb higher. The tracks spin, throwing snow in an arc. The machine sinks deeper and deeper. Another attempt, and another. Nothing works. The storm refuses to let them through. They have to turn back. The rescuers return to base. They wait. They hope the wind will drop, but the snow keeps lashing the slope. Visibility is nearly zero. A signal breaks through for a moment. They catch a fragment of a message from Igor Danko, the guide who had tried to bring Anna down. He says he is on the saddle, critical condition. Then silence. The signal fades. The rescuers mark approximate coordinates, try to move out, and once again hit the storm. This is a wall that cannot be forced by will. Meanwhile, Ilya Chuikov is descending with one of the participants, Dmitry. They move almost blind. Visibility is zero. Chuikov ties him to his own harness and pulls him along. Every step is a fight. Every few meters they stop to breathe and stay conscious. They drift off the route and into the crevasse zone. One wrong step could mean a fall into nothing. Chuikov lies flat on the snow and begins to find the path by touch. They crawl, 1 meter at a time. Then, ahead, a faint light, barely visible but real. A snowcat. One of the machines managed to climb higher this time. On the radio is guide Ksenia Kotliar, coordinating the rescue. The machine has reached the highest point it can, and at that exact moment, their paths cross. Chuikov and Dmitry are found. They are loaded inside. They are alive. Frostbitten, exhausted, but alive. Chuikov tries to explain where the others are. Kotliar relays the coordinates to the rescuers. Toward night, the storm rises again. Visibility is gone. The machines can go no higher. The rescuers below stare into the darkness, knowing that people are still fighting for their lives up there, and no one can reach them. Morning, the wind eases, visibility returns. The snowcats climb higher to where it was impossible to go the night before. On the saddle, they find Igor Danko. He is alive. Beside him lies the body of Anna Makarova. Danko is frostbitten, drained, conscious. They evacuate him. Then they find the others. Some are still showing faint signs of life. Others are not. Denis Venerksy, the one with the broken leg, survived. He spent the entire night forcing himself not to lie down and freeze. He is lifted into the snowcat. Anastasia Zhigulina, no signs of life. Elena Nesterova, found in the same position she was left, one hand shielding her face from the wind. Irina Galchuk, gone. Vyacheslav Borisov, found a little apart from the group. He was in his late 30s. He had 2 children. Artyom Nestorov, alive. He barely speaks. He just sits, staring into nothing. Shock turns a person into stone. The guides are evacuated as well, all of them injured, all needing treatment. Anton Nikiforov, Ilya Chuikov, Taulan Kipkiv, and Igor Danko. Later, the names of those who survived the night become known. Denis Venerksy, Dmitry Dolgov, Sergei Popov, Marina Belikova, Ekaterina Reznikova, Artyom Nestorov, Anna Solonenko, Vitaly Antipov. All of them were taken to hospitals with frostbite and hypothermia. The living are driven to hospitals. The dead, separately. 5 people, 5 lives cut short in a single night on Elbrus. The rescuers descend in silence. Some cry, some just stare at the ground. They have seen many things, but this ascent will be remembered as one of the darkest tragedies in the history of Elbrus. The story explodes across the country. Every news channel talks about the tragedy. New reports come out daily. Interviews, investigations, endless commentary. Some blame the guides, others blame the commercial tourism system itself. Some point to weak regulation and the lack of preparedness for large groups on the mountain. The authorities open a criminal case. The charge is providing services that did not meet safety requirements and resulted in the death of people. The maximum penalty is 10 years. The first person named is Denis Alimov, the head of EBS Guide. He was the one who organized the tours, signed the contracts, and assigned the guides. At the time of the tragedy, he was not on Elbrus. He was managing the business remotely. He is detained. At first placed under house arrest, then taken into custody. Alamov submits a written confession and partially admits guilt. Yes, the acclimatization program was minimal. Yes, the ascent should have been canceled due to the forecast. But he also states that the final decision to proceed was made by the guides themselves, who were experienced and independent. The investigation lasts nearly 2 years. By the autumn of 2022, the status of the 4 guides, Anton Nikiforov, Ilya Chuikov, Igor Danko, and Taulan Kipkiv, is changed from witnesses to defendants. They are charged under the same article, providing unsafe services. All 4 were injured that night. Nikiforov underwent surgery on his fingers. Chuikov suffered frostbite. Kipkiv was in intensive care with pulmonary edema. Danko was the least physically hurt. Frostbite, outpatient treatment. After recovering, the guides returned to work. Legally, they were allowed to. Their procedural status did not forbid professional activity. This caused a wave of anger among survivors. Newspapers published their questions. How can people die? And the guides continue leading groups. Families of the deceased filed complaints and demanded a trial. The court proceedings revealed many details. It turns out that EBS Guide was, on paper, a legal company, registered with insurance and licenses in place. But the system that was supposed to oversee commercial mountain tourism barely functioned. No one inspected routes. No one required reports on weather or participant health. Groups went into the mountains relying only on the judgment of the guides. Coordination with rescue services existed only as an informal habit, with no mandatory checkpoints and no centralized dispatch. At the hearings, Artyom Nestorov, husband of the deceased Elena Nestorova, speaks, "We thought someone was tracking our route, that someone was watching over us, concerned for us. But in reality, there was no one. We were on our own." The court records the core issue. Commercial tourism on Elbrus had become a marketplace with almost no real oversight. Hundreds of companies, thousands of tourists, formal paperwork, minimal safety standards. Guides working to exhaustion, companies chasing profit, clients unaware of the risks. All of it converged at a single point. That night on Elbrus. The guides' exhaustion, business pressure, weak acclimatization, a dangerous weather forecast, no coordination. Any one of these factors could have been prevented. None were. In late February of 2025, the court delivers its verdict. Denis Alamov receives a sentence of several years in a penal colony. 2 of the guides receive real prison terms as well. The others are given suspended sentences. For the families, this brings no relief. No sentence can return the people who froze on the slope. But this trial marks something important. It formally recognizes that the tragedy of 2021 was not an accident. It was the result of human decisions, and the failure of those who should have prevented it. What lessons can we take from this story? The first and most important one, the mountain does not forgive the checklist tourism mindset. Elbrus is not an attraction and not a service. It is not a place where you can buy a ticket and be guaranteed a result. The mountain has its own laws, and those laws are stricter than any contract. You can pay a lot of money, hire experienced guides, buy the best gear, but if the weather turns, if your body is not ready, if you ignore the signals, the mountain will stop you, sometimes permanently. The second lesson, safety in the mountains begins with personal responsibility. Yes, there is a guide. Yes, they are experienced, but the choice to continue is yours. When you feel a headache during acclimatization, don't stay silent. Don't endure. Don't assume everyone feels this. And if you need to turn back, turn back. That is not weakness. That is maturity. A life is worth more than any summit, any photo, any story. When the weather changes, when the guide says, "We'll make it," but you can clearly see you won't, ask questions. What happens if we don't? Is there a backup plan? What if the storm hits? If there are no clear answers, turn around. You may lose money, but you will keep your life. The third lesson, commercial pressure lowers safety. When a tour company puts profit above caution, that is not business. That is negligence. When a guide works without rest, pushing through debt, leading group after group, that is the road to tragedy. When a client demands success at any cost, they sign their own sentence. The mountains require respect, patience, preparation. You cannot simply show up and take the summit. You earn it with training, acclimatization, and good decisions. If you are in a hurry, Do not go to the mountains. Go to the beach, the park, the gym. There you can buy an emotion. In the mountains, emotions are paid for with time, effort, and risk. The fourth lesson, trust professionals, but not blindly. Yes, the guide knows more, but they are also human. They can be tired, stressed, or wrong. You must stay present. Watch yourself and others. Ask questions. In the mountains, it is better to be a cautious, annoying voice. And alive. And one more thing. Elbrus is not cruel. It does not avenge. It is simply honest. It shows who is ready and who isn't, who respects the rules and who thinks they can bend them, who listens to their body and who chooses to ignore it. The mountain is a mirror. It reflects your decisions, your preparation, your attitude. And if there is a weak point, it will reveal it. Hard, but honestly. 5 people died on Elbrus in September of 2021. This is not a statistic. These are names, lives: Anna Makarova, Vyacheslav Borisov, Elena Nesterova, Anastasia Zhigulina, Irina Galchuk. 5 stories that ended too soon. 5 families waiting for someone who never came home. They are gone, but their story has to be heard, so no one repeats their path. Because if we don't learn from it, this will happen again and again. The mountain will remain. The tours will still be sold. People will still go, not always prepared, not always aware, and someone else may not turn back in time. Elbrus is not going anywhere. It will stand for thousands of years, and everyone will have their chance. When the time is right, when the body is ready, when the weather allows, when the decisions are sound. But if you go against all of that, there will be no second chance. Remember that, always. If you watch to the end, tell me in the comments what you think. Should tours like this be strictly regulated, or should the responsibility fall on each person who steps into the mountains?